Welcome to the CVs versus Resumes webinar, brought to you by the Experiential Learning Hub at the University of Guelph. My name is Julia Leary. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a career advisor. Today we're going to be talking about CVs and resumes, two important documents for your job search and further education. I would like to begin with a territorial acknowledgement. It is with great respect the Experiential Learning Hub acknowledges that the University of Guelph resides on the ancestral lands of the Attawandaron people and the treaty lands and territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit. We uphold the significance of the Dish with One Spoon covenant and the continuing relationship our Indigenous neighbors have with this land. We recognize that today this gathering place is home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples, and acknowledging them reminds us of our relationships to this land where we learn and work. After completing this webinar, you should understand what makes CVs and resumes different, how to decide which one to use, important formatting considerations, and how to create content that gets the attention of employers. Let's begin with some context, as CVs and resumes can be viewed and used differently in different countries. Internationally, CVs are often the preferred application document and may be requested in all circumstances. Depending on the country, it might be expected that you include personal details that you would never include on a Canadian CV. This webinar will focus on resumes and CVs in the Canadian or North American context. Here, resumes and CVs are distinct documents used for different purposes. However, you may have noticed that some people use these terms interchangeably, which can be confusing. After completing this webinar, you should have a good idea of when to use each document. While many people use the terms resumes and CVs interchangeably, they are two distinct documents with some similarities but many differences. Let's start with CVs. The term CV stands for curriculum vitae, a Latin phrase meaning course of life. In North America, CVs are typically used only for academic and research positions, and sometimes when applying to graduate programs and professional schools. Because of this, there is often an emphasis on research, teaching, and service experience. Just like the phrase course of life suggests, CVs grow as your experience grows. They are cumulative documents that embody your life's work. Resumes, on the other hand, are more commonly used in North America and are typically the requirement when applying to industry positions. Resumes should showcase skills and accomplishments that relate to the specific job you are applying for. The length never exceeds 2 pages, but the content or focus can vary greatly to demonstrate your fit for a specific job. Both documents have the same goal: to get you an interview. Whether it's a resume or CV, in Canada, you should never include personal information such as your date of birth, social insurance number, marital status, or similar details, even if you have included this type of information on your international CV in the past. You should also avoid salary information or requests and reasons for leaving previous jobs. CVs and resumes should be written in the third person, meaning leaving out personal pronouns such as I and my. Finally, unless it has been specifically requested, references should not be included on CVs or resumes. The information will be on a separate document and supplied only when requested. For employment, this request will typically take place at the interview stage. When it comes to formatting, there are some universal rules for both resumes and CVs. Your name and contact information needs to be complete, professional, and easy to read. This includes at the minimum your phone number, UFG email address, and LinkedIn URL if you have one. Make sure your section headings stand out using font size or style, bold, and/or caps. You should think strategically when ordering your headings, starting with the information that is most relevant to the position and working backwards. Use bullet points to break up large blocks of text and make your document easy to scan. Starting each bullet with an action verb will also grab attention. Regardless of your discipline, include both technical and transferable skills. Technical skills tend to be discipline-specific, such as C++ or specific lab skills. Transferable skills, on the other hand, are those which employers look for in many fields, such as communication, teamwork, time management, and leadership. In each section of your document, your information should be presented in reverse chronological order, that is, starting with the most recent experience and working backwards. Finally, whatever formatting choices you make, be sure to apply them consistently throughout your resume or CV and make good use of white space to create a document that is both attractive and easy to read. Let's talk about section headings for CVs in more detail. Here you can see a list of some common section headings to consider. Notice that the emphasis is on academic pursuits such as research, teaching, and service. If you are an undergraduate student, you likely won't have publications, conference presentations, or teaching experience yet. That's okay. Just don't include those headings. CVs are as different as the people who write them. Include what makes sense for you. You should also think strategically when it comes to the order of your headings. Start with what is most important or what you want to stand out the most and work backwards from there. Now we'll spend some time on resumes, which take strategy to a whole new level. The best resumes, those that stand out and grab an employer's attention, are written with a specific job in mind and highlight only relevant skills, experience, and accomplishments. A resume is not everything you've ever done. It's only those details that have a direct connection to the job you want now. For most students and recent grads, the section on this slide will be most important. Start with a highlights or summary section that grabs attention and entices the employer to read more. Students in a Bachelor of Science program should put an emphasis on technical skills here, such as lab techniques or programming languages, while Bachelor of Arts students will generally emphasize transferable skills like communication, teamwork, and problem solving. Remember that what is important for one job might not be relevant for another. This means that you need to go through your resume line by line, asking yourself each time, is this relevant for this job? If the answer is yes, great. If the answer is no, you need to determine if it needs some reworking to make it relevant or if it just needs to go. Lots of students I meet with tell me that they have little or no relevant experience and are worried about not being able to get a job. My biggest piece of advice is to not forget about your academic experience. Whether it was a particular class, project, paper, lab, or report, including academic experience in your resume is a great way to highlight discipline-specific skills that you haven't used in a job yet. Reminding yourself of your academic experience can also help you to identify those top transferable skills that employers look for. Take some time to go through your past course syllabi and rubrics and make a list of the skills you've gained. It is important that you use your academic, work, volunteer, and extracurricular experience to prove to the employer that not only do you have relevant skills to offer, but that you can apply those skills to this new situation and will add value. One of the most common mistakes I see in resumes are bullet points that list duties and responsibilities. This tells the employer about the job you had instead of the skills and value you bring to this position. If this sounds like your resume, challenge yourself to think of the skills you used to carry out your job duties and what results you were able to achieve. This might sound tough, but there is a formula you can use called STAR. STAR is an acronym that stands for skill, task, action, and result. STAR is a great framework to get comfortable with. It works for creating bullet points for resumes and CVs, for writing cover letters, and to prepare stories for interviews. Let's look at a few examples. Take a look at how a simple job duty can be transformed into an impressive accomplishment statement by using STAR. Another important tip to remember is to quantify and qualify. Give numbers and examples to give context. Do you have a hard time coming up with action verbs or find yourself using the same ones over and over again? If so, Google action verbs for resumes and take a look through the many lists you will find for ideas. Whether it's a CV or a resume, here are some important final tips. Avoid using a template. Otherwise, your resume or CV will end up looking like everyone else's, and some templates are not compatible with ATS or applicant tracking systems. Remember that these documents are a sample of your work and will create a first impression. Make sure it's a good one by ensuring that there are no formatting, spelling, or grammar mistakes by having a friend, family member, or career advisor give it a final read-through before you send it out. Make sure that your vocabulary connects to the job you want to get. This means including important discipline-specific terms and buzzwords, as well as keywords from the job posting. Ensure that your formatting is consistent and that within each section, your experiences are presented in reverse chronological order. Double check that your contact information is up to date and that your voicemail message is professional. To review, we've covered the main differences between Canadian CVs and resumes, when to use each, common section headings, formatting considerations, STAR statements, action verbs and skills, and the importance of customizing and targeting your documents. Now that you know more about CVs and resumes, take a moment to self-reflect and set some goals by pausing this presentation and answering for yourself the questions on the screen. If you are a student with a disability and have questions about if, when, or how to discuss this with an employer, please note that there are online resources available and that you can book a virtual one-on-one appointment with a career advisor to discuss your situation in more detail. Take note of how to connect with career services for further information and support. We are here to help you virtually with a variety of webinars and individual appointments. Thank you for completing our webinar on CVs and resumes.